Hey everyone, my name is Brendan Marchand. I'm the assistant editor for the Wise County Messenger. And this summer, I'm starting a brand new interview series where I'm going to be talking to former local athletes, whether they're still in Wise County or have gone on to do bigger and better things elsewhere. Just going to sit down with them weekly and talk about what they're doing and talk about what their time was like in Wise County. And this week, our inaugural interview is going to be kicked off with a really special guest, and that is Boyd's very own Jared Cate. Right now, you can find him drawing up plays on the sidelines for Frisco Panther Creek High School. But before that, before he was dialing up absolutely lethal offenses, he was an Ironman athlete himself in Boyd for the Yellow Jackets, playing football, baseball, basketball, pretty much doing everything he could for Wise County. So without further ado, we are going to hop right into my very first interview for this summer interview series with Coach Jared Cate. The first thing is, I mean, do you do you ever get a break? I know school's out and we're in summer mode, but what does summer actually look like for you as a coach?
Not much of a break. It's a little bit. We have workouts every morning from 7:15 to 9:30. Then after that, the UIL passed to where we could work with our kids a few years back. And so we do football skills a couple days a week for about an hour. And so a little bit of a break, but we still go Monday through Thursday throughout the summer. And so just to be able to see our kids, keep them around, make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. We're doing 7-on-7 right now as well. So we're in a league and doing SQTs and the state 7-on-7 next week as well. And so a little bit of a break, but still staying around our guys, making sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
In your rare moments of downtime, I was looking at your bio on the athletics website. Are you still playing golf? Do you have any time to play golf these days?
Still play a little golf, not well, but do play a little. Actually played in a tournament this past weekend with my father-in-law for Father's Day. And so still get a chance. And that's what's good about the summer is the little break that we do get, able to go play some golf and get outdoors a little bit.
You're going into is this going to be your fourth year at Panther Creek?
Fourth year at Panther Creek. We opened 4 years ago, and so this is year number 4 for us.
And I want to get into your role everyone, knows the responsibilities of an offensive coordinator, but recruiting coordinator, I think, is a super interesting, a little bit newer thing, probably in the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, really. What are your responsibilities, I guess, off the field as a recruiting coordinator, and what does that look like for you day to day?
Yeah, it's ever changing, and it's changed a lot even since I was in high school for sure. And it's an important position at high schools nowadays as the landscape kind of changes. And my role is campus-wide recruiting coordinator, not just football. And so, it's really been a blessing because I've gotten to work with all the different coaches and kind of what it looks like day to day is we have a recruiting website, panthersrecruiting.com. And so run that and keep that updated. We have college coaches come by in the open window whenever they're able to. And so kind of handle that for the most part, me and the head coach. We kind of tag team that. Setting up signing days. That's a big deal. When an athlete wants to sign, set that up for them, make sure everything's good to go. And then we have a seminar. We have a recruiting seminar every spring. And so get up there and kind of talk to the parents about, and it's funny because our slideshow, our presentation changes every year as recruiting changes. And so, they just passed something now. It's going to change even more with NIL and transfer portal and what that looks like. And in a way, it's kind of hurt the high school athlete getting recruited, the transfer portal. And so been really blessed with that opportunity. It's allowed me to grow a ton, just getting to know the recruiting game and working with all the different coaches around campus.
How much has the recruiting game changed since you were in high school? I mean, I graduated from Azle in 2017, and it's like I knew a few guys who like their dad would run like a Twitter recruiting profile for him, but that was just a handful of guys. And now it's like every kid is throwing up highlights on every social media platform, and you've got recruiting coordinators now. I mean, is it even comparable between, when did you graduate? 2014?
2012.
2012. Okay. Is it even comparable, 10, 13 years ago?
I would say night and day. Night and day. And the good news is nowadays, there's a lot more opportunity to be seen. I don't think it matters. It still matters what school you go to, just to get eyeballs on you, but it doesn't matter as much as what it did back in the day, I would say, because like you said, with social media and everything else and people sending out huddle links. When I was in high school, we didn't have huddle. It was still on DVDs. And so I had to mail those out to everybody. Now it's one touch of the finger, you're on their Twitter account, and everybody has their huddle link to that. And so it's a lot easier to get seen nowadays, but it's also, there's a lot more that goes into it, I would say. And so for parents to be educated on what it looks like and then all the necessary steps you need to take is really, really important. And that's where a recruiting coordinator comes in. And that's why that position is more and more coveted, I think.
So when you got to Panther Creek, was that your first season? Was that the first season of varsity play for the team?
It was, and we actually opened with just 9th through 11th grade, so we didn't have seniors year one, and got thrown in a district with juniors only, no seniors, and so took our lumps year one. But it was really, really good to see, because year one to year two we didn't lose anybody because everybody just moved up a grade and didn't graduate anybody, and so really, really interesting to see the growth of our kids from year one to year two. Year one they were a bunch of scared puppies at times. We didn't have a whole lot of guys with varsity experience. And then year two, everybody had varsity experience, right? It was the same team for the most part coming back. And so, man, what an experience for me. And I would encourage, I don't know if I'd do it twice. I don't know if I'd open a school twice, but I would encourage everybody to do it at least once in their career.
What's it like getting into a school like from the ground floor and like being able to have kind of like your immediate fingerprints on the program? Like, what are some of the benefits of that? And also, I mean, you talked about some of the struggles. What are some of the other struggles that people might not know about?
So there's a lot that goes into it, and you don't know what you don't know. And so, coming from Boyd, where it's so rich in tradition and been good for a really, really long time, it's kind of complete opposite of that. And so, and there's really no blueprint to it. And so, just from the small things of ordering equipment, you can't, if you mess up and don't order mouthpieces for the next fall, you're going to be in trouble. Right. And so it just all the little things of ordering stuff, you got to order everything from scratch. Right. And so, that was kind of the struggle, and there was a lot. And our head coach, he's the athletic coordinator on our campus. And so he was in a lot of interviews. I got to sit in on some of those interviews as well. And so, and seeing a ton of resumes coming in, and that helped my personal growth as well. But the cool thing about it is you get to start, your culture or your sayings or your hashtags on social media, what you want the culture of your program to look like. That's kind of the benefit from starting a school from scratch versus, more inheriting the culture that's already there. We got all new community, all new gear, all new sayings, all new culture, verbiage. And so starting all that stuff was a lot of fun. A lot of work goes into it, but it was a lot of fun.
And y'all did take a huge jump from year one to year two. I mean, naturally, like you said, with kids just getting a little bit older and developing more as athletes and that continuity, what were some other things you saw between like November of 2022 and then August of 2023 when you were putting pads back on that you were like, man, we might be a pretty good team this year?
So it was really, really tough when we first started the school. Was in spring of 22, I guess it would have been. Well, our construction wasn't done on our campus, so we couldn't utilize it. And we were pulling kids from two different high schools, Lone Star, Memorial. And so what we would do, me and the defensive coordinator every day I would go pick up the kids from Lone Star. He would go pick up the kids from Memorial, and we met at a middle school. And so, all the kids that were zoned for us, we'd go pick them up, take them over there. And we were just trying to install an offense, install a defense, get all of our kids there, calling parents, calling kids, trying to get everybody together and understand who's all zoned for us and get them all in one place at one time and just trying to install, like I said, an offense, defense. We were playing a lot of kids both ways. Just because our numbers, like I said, we're 9th through 11th grade, and so we're low on numbers. And so we didn't really get too in depth offensively and defensively as far as schematics go year one. And so it's kind of just our base stuff. But then as soon as that first year was over, we didn't have to reinstall everything. You know, we went through the steps, but we could start layering stuff on top of that. And so I think that would be, other than the kids growing up physically, the mental aspect of it, of already knowing the offense and defense as we go into spring, and then we can start stacking stuff on top of that and kind of getting more and more in depth and doing what we kind of wanted to do on offense and defense, because it was all the same kids. Like I said, we didn't have to create a depth chart for year two. It was the same depth chart, just copy it over, put a new year on it, and it's all the same kids. And so they already knew all the scheme going into year two, and so we really got to layer stuff, you know, and stack things on top of what we did year one.
And in the last, 3 years, you've got some pretty high flying offenses that seem wildly entertaining to me. I mean, averaging like 43 points per game or something like that last year. I mean, I guess first off, what's kind of like your, in layman's terms, what's your offensive philosophy, and like how much does it take for kids to buy into that and make it work at a high level? Because they obviously are.
Well, we've been really, really blessed with good kids. That's first and foremost. Our attendance zone, there's really, really good football players in our attendance zone. So we've been really blessed there. We like to play fast. We're up tempo, no huddle offense. Try to play as fast as possible. Whether it's a one word call or just a standard play call. And that's really on the quarterback. You got to have a good trigger man behind center to get anything accomplished, and been really, really fortunate in that area as well. And so, we like to play fast. We don't necessarily say that we like to throw the ball more than we like to run it, or we like to run it more than we like to throw it. We're going to take what the defense gives us and try to stretch them down the field and horizontally. And so, take advantage of all the grass on the field, if that makes sense, and play fast doing it. And so it's been a lot of fun. We've had really, really good kids that have bought into what we've tried to do. And it's been fun the last couple of years.
I want to go back to your time at Boyd. I was reading through some of our archives, and it seems like, you could kind of just pick your sport and be good at it. I know it took work to get there. But football, basketball, baseball, I think I was reading one story and you were referred to as a double machine in basketball. So what's your take on playing multiple sports throughout the year and trying to be a well-rounded athlete versus now we're seeing parents have their kids in like year-round baseball and there's burnout by the age of 12. Why was it important for you to play multiple sports, and do you still kind of encourage that to this day?
Absolutely. And I think it's really, really unfortunate that, because, like you said, nowadays athletes are a lot more specialized. And I think, they pick one sport and do that year round versus playing everything, whatever's in season, and I think every sport develops a different movement, a different, arm angle, whatever it is. One sport may help your feet, one may help your arm. And so, every sport, there's a little bit different body movement to it. And I think one sport will help the other. And so I'm a huge advocate for multi-sport athletes. Still to this day, I don't care what size school it is. It's getting harder and harder, I feel like, just because, it's hard to compete with the guys that play one sport because they're doing it year round. Right. And so, I think it does make more well-rounded athletes if you can do multiple things. And I'm a huge advocate for it, and it avoids burnout as well. I think if you do one thing year round, I think mentally and physically you can get burnt out. Your body can get burnt out from the same movement over and over and over, and physically or mentally as well. I think you need something new. You need something new to go try, and a new challenge. And every sport has kind of its little subculture to it. And so I think that's good for kids to do, especially growing up, to do as many sports as possible, and even into high school.
So before you went on to West Texas A&M and A&M-Commerce, you ended your career as the all-time passing yards leader and passing touchdowns leader at Boyd, surpassing some pretty big names before you, most notably Billy Joe Tolliver. What was that senior season like for you? And I believe there was a a playoff absence or maybe a first round win, losing streak before that. What was that like your last year at Boyd, and what do you remember most from your senior year?
It was a lot of fun. Our senior year was a lot of fun, and it was a culmination of a lot of things coming together and just kind of came together at the right time. You know, we had a really, really good offensive coordinator, Brandon Hopkins, who went on to be the head coach, and he actually hired me when I worked in Boyd for a couple of years. Really, really good players around me, guys that could run and catch, and big boys up front that could protect. And you know, it was kind of like I said, everything just came together at the right time, and it allowed us to have a lot of success on offense. And you know, it was junior year was a little bit tougher, and so going into senior year, no one really knew what we would kind of be, and that's kind of why I like 7-on-7, is because going into our senior year, we did the 7-on-7 circuit and went down to state, and we were pretty good at it, and you know, and so it kind of instilled some confidence in us that we could be pretty good, and so just carried that on into fall camp, and like you said, you win one game and you know, you think you're okay, and then you win another, and you start getting on a winning streak, and all of a sudden you look around and say, you know, we're not bad. And so disappointed with how it ended senior year, but it was a lot of fun, and got to do it with my best friends. And I tell kids all the time now, you don't realize this now, but this is the best times of your life. You still live in the house with your parents taking care of you. You know, you don't have a ton of responsibilities. You get to do it with all your friends you live right next door to. And so it was some of the best times of my life for sure, and I'll cherish it forever.
Do you ever have to let your guys know at Panther Creek, your players know that what kind of an athlete you were, or do they know?
Well, every now and then I'll get out there and throw a few balls around, but yeah, I got to show them. Sometimes when I get out there, I tell them it's not necessarily what I'm doing, it's what I'm saying, because as I get older, the lazier I get with my feet, and don't always do exactly how I coach it to be done, but every now and then I'll get out there and throw the ball around a little bit.
Can you talk about your experience playing under the legendary Coach Cartwright, and kind of how he influenced you as not only a player in your time in high school, but then maybe some stuff that you've taken into your coaching career as you're building that now?
Absolutely, and I think the biggest thing with Coach Cartwright was you didn't get away with a lot. And so, you know, the accountability in the program more than anything. And you know, he ran a tight ship, and, you know, if he saw something that needed to be fixed, he was going to fix it. And so it wasn't one of those, I think a lot of coaches where they get into trouble is they see something happen and, you know, oh, it'll be all right this time. You know, we'll let it slide this time. You know, not him. He ran a tight ship, and accountability was huge. He was huge in our program. And so carrying that on into the coaching career, I think, and kids crave discipline at the end of the day. They may not always act like it, and there may be some resistance, but they all crave discipline.
Did you spent time in corporate accounting, right, before you got into coaching?
A little bit, and it wasn't for me, and I quickly found that out. And so sitting in front of a computer all day wasn't. I don't think that's my calling.
What was can you think of like a moment in time where you made the conscious decision, like, I think I want to pursue coaching young athletes and, you know, forming up young men and women? Was there a moment in time you can think back to, like, all right, I'm making this career move now?
Well, when I initially got into it, it goes back to Brandon Hopkins, who was offensive coordinator when I was in high school, and then he took over. He kind of reached out and said there was an opportunity. And originally it wasn't, you know, everybody talks about how it's for kids and things like that. That's what it ended up being for me. But originally it was, I get to coach football. This is awesome. You know, and actually I was coaching 3 sports, football, basketball, baseball, loved every minute of it. Quickly, as I got into it, I realized this is a kid business. And so, you know, I really do think it's my calling to be around kids and try to raise them up the right way and turn them into better husbands and fathers and sons. And you know, so what started as just football, basketball, or baseball quickly turned into, we're in the kid business. And even if you can build a relationship with a kid, that allows you to get more out of them, even beyond the schematic of the game. You can have a good scheme, but if you don't build a relationship with a kid, they're not going to be willing to truly truly think that that's why I'm put on the earth, is to, it's my calling to be around these kids and raise them up the right way.
How do you think you would have coached yourself if you were coaching high school Jared Cate? How do you think you would have coached yourself? What are some things that you would have had to stay on top of yourself for, or maybe what do you think that relationship would have been like between high school Jared Cate and Coach Jared Cate?
Probably not great. I think I was a little hard-headed in high school, and so I was probably one of those kids that needed to have a stern talking to about how to carry yourself, and not that I was a bad kid by any means, but I just a little hard-headed, probably flirted the line of confidence. You want your players to be confident but not cocky, and so probably would have got into it a little bit with myself on that, and so I definitely needed a talking to every now and then.
You are not the only standout athlete in your family, if I'm correct, right? Your wife was a pretty good volleyball player at West Texas A&M, and she's a head coach of Salina, who I got to see play Decatur in the state semifinals. How competitive is your family, or is there a pretty competitive nature between the two of y'all?
Very competitive, very competitive. And I tell people all the time, she's a lot better athlete than I ever was, and so our kids have a 50% chance of being pretty good if they take after her. And so, but very competitive. We're always competing in something, and we have 2 little boys now, and so it's a lot of fun in our house. And she's taught me a lot about coaching as well, and so in athletics and everything else, and so bouncing ideas off each other, because we're both kind of in the same profession, and it gets tough at times because during football volleyball season can get pretty hectic with 2 little kids, but man, it's awesome. There's never a dull moment for sure, and I think our boys have a lot of fun.
How many more weeks or are you counting down the days until fall camp starts?
We're not far. I'm not. I don't have it pinned on a calendar, but I know we have. I think 5 more weeks, not counting the 4th of July week, as we're off that week, and so somewhere around there, around 5 more weeks, and we'll be putting the pads on, and so can't wait. It's always an exciting time of year.
Yeah, what are you looking forward to most regarding this year specifically for Panther Creek football?
Yeah, I think just building, there'll be some expectations for Panther Creek football. And so, it kind of flipped because year 2, when we were, we started off, we struggled a little bit year 1. Like I said, we took some licks, and then year 2, there was 0 expectations, and we were able to, and it was a lot of fun because week after week, no one picked us to win. We were winning games, and it was just, we were doing something that no one expected us to do. And so I think it's kind of flipped now. There is expectations. And so trying to keep that chip on your shoulder is what we talk to our kids about all the time. Just because you're picked to win, you don't win the game on paper. And so keeping that chip on our shoulder, and just the day one excitement of getting out there and getting everybody together and back in town and everything else is, it should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome, man. Well, I won't keep you too much more longer. Thanks for joining me. Any parting words for Coach Jared Cate?
Appreciate you having me. It was a pleasure, and go Yellow Jackets.
All right, man. We'll talk to you later.